Hi, thanks for being in a new video. I'm very excited because we have on the channel the OPPO Find X7 Ultra, a device that promises to be the best in photography today. So let's unbox it, let's get started. This device has not announced its arrival in Mexico, at least not at the time of recording this video. But in case there is any change, I will be notifying you. But it is a totally flagship device, so don't expect it to be cheap. Let's take it out of its box and see what it has to offer. And right off the bat, we find the case, which in this generation you notice is silicone, completely flexible, but it's not transparent. In fact, it has the color of the back cover of this device, so it matches perfectly well. I have the last generation case here so you can tell the difference. I actually like the way last generation's case looked better because it had a faux leather finish on this part and was completely rigid. So now I feel like it went down a notch and completely has this flagship OPPO color. I would have liked it to keep the dual tone. But well, that's a brief review of the case. Additional to that, we came across some quick info sheets of additional services given by OPPO in China. And finally, the key to remove the tray. And now we meet directly with the cell phone. Notice how massive this camera module is. You're anticipating a spectacular camera, but let's take this plastic off. And notice the device is gorgeous. So I brought the last generation back as a guest, and I think even though they maintain a very similar essence, the design has been refined. For starters, I like more how now this dual color finish comes with this curve for the camera module. And I also like that they've switched to a light background on the cameras to make the different lenses that are integrated stand out a bit more. I really like the design of both devices, but I prefer the design of the newer model. However, with the case on, definitely that last generation design looks nicer because now, watch, honestly the design looks very ugly. I didn't like the way this looks. So if I were a user of this device, which I might be, I would use it completely without a case. Leave that out there. Let's take a look at what else comes included in the box. And as they all count, we get the 100-watt Super VOC charger, which I'm guessing is going to have a lightning fast charge. And also the cable that comes in from USB-A and goes to USB-C. It's a cable that has a good gauge. It doesn't have any standout color as to easily differentiate it, but clearly you need to use the original cable if you want to maintain the fastest charge possible. So that's all the contents of the box. Let me put everything away to take a look at the device. I've already got this device set up, so let's get to know the specs that it's going to offer us and pay close attention to the camera. It weighs 121 grams and is 9.5 millimeters thick. In addition, the camera module protrudes a lot more. The leatherette back cover is very nice. It also has a curved screen, so in all design elements it appears to be a fairly advanced device. The screen is quite large at 6.82 inches on its diagonal. It also offers a resolution of 3168 by 1440 pixels. It has AMOLED technology and can vary its refresh rate from 1 to 120 Hz. It is a fully high-end display. In fact, it can peak at 4500 nits when viewing HDR content. As you realize, the pictures feature this Pro XDR technology, so it can easily give you more realism when viewing your pictures by increasing the brightness of the screen in very certain areas that had more brightness in real life as well. So honestly, I love that technology. The front camera is 32 megapixels with f2.4 aperture and also autofocus. I've got some evidence here. The preview still doesn't look optimized. I think in that regard it could still improve the experience. But after taking the picture, it does an excellent balance of highlights and shadows, and again with the Pro XDR technology we can notice more intensity in this area that was very bright. But if you zoom in, you can tell that it's not completely burned out or overexposed, so it's a completely good result that this device offers us with its front camera, at least that in first impressions, because it's also a very well detailed picture. And on the back, OPPO claims that it has no main camera. That is, they say all 4 cameras are main cameras. The ultra-wide camera is 14mm with 50 megapixels, f2.0 point aperture and autofocus. Then there is the 23mm camera with a 50 megapixel sensor and 1-inch size. Also with f1.8 aperture, autofocus and optical stabilization. Then the first periscope camera with 65mm. That is approximate optical sum 3x, 50 megapixels, aperture f2.6 and optical stabilization with autofocus. And finally, the second periscope camera with 50 megapixels, aperture f4.3, focal length of 135 millimeters, that is some approximate 6x, again with optical stabilization and with autofocus. As you realize, all 4 cameras are 50 megapixels, offering a super advanced photographic system. And as usual, here are some sample pictures. All of them feature Pro XDR technology, which makes the photos much more vivid when viewed on this screen. The 14mm camera seems to have a very good quality, no doubt about it. Then, the 23mm camera retains virtually the same color. In fact, that's something that OPPO has emphasized, that their entire photographic system retains very similar color representation. Now you're looking at the photograph at 47mm, now at 72mm, now 135mm, and notice how I'm getting closer and closer to that little insect that was there to demonstrate to you all the zoom capabilities. Notice in this case it would be 225mm, that's about 10x. Then we're at 30x zoom and you're still seeing excellent quality. In fact, the texture of the wall is perfectly well marked. Now the picture is 1345 millimeters, so it's a very intense zoom, and the maximum it allows is 120x, and definitely that is able to give us an excellent level of detail. But to notice a lot more detail, obviously you can zoom in, and in this case the picture I took it with a 5.9x zoom, and look at the tremendous level of detail that it's giving us. It really is a totally amazing camera. In addition, you can also take portraits at different focal lengths. For example, this one is 23mm, then 47mm, then 65mm, and finally with 135mm. And he notes that in all of them he has a good quality. In this particular case, it doesn't seem to have detected this strap that I'm hanging the camera with as accurately. But it's a pretty complicated environment, and in portrait photography it also has this Pro XDR feature. So that's the quality more or less that the camera is giving us for portraits. I think it's very good, but we'll test it later and compare it with other devices as well. Notice that I took some other example pictures here with the portrait mode, and I feel that it does have good detection of all the edges of the foreground. So the camera is possibly one of the most attractive things on this phone. In addition, the front camera can already record in 4K at 60 frames per second. All the rear cameras too, and even with Dolby Vision. So it also promises to improve a lot in video recording. The battery is 5000 milliamps with support for 100 watt charging. So in that sense, the battery, let's say it's standard. It doesn't seem to be as amazing as we've seen in some other flagships, but I'm guessing it's going to give us a good performance. Although we'll do more specific tests on that in the review. It comes with Android 14 and Color OS running on it. This OPPO system comes nicely customized with several added features that I'll tell you about later. It has 512 gigabytes of storage. So you have plenty of space to store any number of photos and videos recorded with these excellent cameras. It also has 16 gigabytes of RAM and another 4 virtual gigabytes. Although you can go up to an additional 12 gigabytes of virtual RAM. Although honestly at OPPO I don't find the virtual RAM that spectacular, but that's what it's offering us. And finally, the processor is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. So let's run a benchmark to get an estimate of the power that this device is capable of giving us. We already know it's a flagship processor, but let's wait for the result. And that's it, we already have this score finalized. 6,349 points in multi-core and 2,149 in single core. They confirm that we are in front of a device that not only has a massive camera, but also has a lot of power. Then soon I will make you a complete and detailed analysis so you can get to know it. Hopefully soon OPPO will announce the global distribution of this device because it is very nice. For the moment we have reached the end of this video. If you liked it, you can tell us about it, and we'll see you next time.